Come back. The struggling gold and platinum price slid to fresh multi-year lows yesterday. This as prospects of higher US interest rates and sluggish demand came back to haunt two of South Africa's key foreign exchange earning sectors. Well, what does this mean for the real economy? Well, a pleasure to welcome Iraj Abedien, CEO of Pan Africa Capital, to talk to us about it. Iraj, thanks indeed for coming.
Thank you.
All right, let's just take care and start with what's happening with gold at the moment. I mean, we know for a fact that part of the reason is because we have this obvious strong dollar and the possibility of envisaged rate hikes in the US, so we have this shift. What are the other reasons for what we're seeing with gold at the moment?
I think the other part is on the demand side. Demand was also sluggish. Investment demand has just about vanished. Because why do you want to hold gold? Which is, over the next 3, 4, 5 years is going to only lose prices. Yeah. So the investment demand has dropped. We saw Chinese reacting. And also retail consumer demand. With the exception of rural India, everywhere else in the globe, the consumer demand has also dropped. That, in part, is a reflection of the fact that the global GDP has come from well above 4%, at its peak 6.5%, to the current level of 2%. Yep. When the GDP, which is the income of people, drops that much, demand for all commodities drops.
It's a cocktail of a mix here, isn't it? How
Absolutely.
long are we in this scenario, or rather a reality? What do you think?
I think at the moment, average 7 to 8 years, it's a structural adjustment to the global economy. The commodities, not just gold and platinum, look at what's happening to the price of oil. Yeah. Look at what's happening to the price of iron ore. So it is not a cyclical change that is going to take 6 to 9 months. We need to prepare for 6 to 7 years, and at the outset, possibly on the outside, 9 years.
Now, that worries me when I consider what happens to our foreign earnings. You look at our trade deficit, and then you look at the cyclic effect on the rand. Talk to me about that.
Of course, at the moment, despite all the attempt at diversification, nearly 40% of our foreign exchange earning comes from mining, broadly defined. And therefore, when commodities collapse like that, commodity prices, and at the same time, commodity volumes, because there is no electricity, there is policy uncertainty, and it's really a perfect storm for our mineral exports, because they cannot get energy to produce. When they produce, prices are low and collapsing. At the same time, you have unions disrupting and government broadly disrupting their businesses by chopping and changing different things. So I think our mining sector is really in the crisis that's never been for decades.
It does paint a bleak picture, doesn't it, Iraj? I mean, we just saw a clip earlier on. We crossed to Mogeni Mutu, who was covering the wage talks in the gold sector. I mean, the unions and their demands are a big factor in this industry, aren't they?
Absolutely. So wage bill is a major component of your operational cost. And therefore, when the revenue line is collapsing the way it does, the only factor that you have under control is wages, first and foremost, and other supplies, of course. Power being one of them. Yeah. Eskom prices keep going up if it's available. When it's not available, it disrupts operations. So cost containment at the moment is the only game in town. And unions want massive increases. Eskom wants massive increases. Government puts new legislation which adds to the cost of doing business. All of that means cost containment, unlike countries like Australia, Brazil, and so on, is not entirely under the control of management at the moment.
You've mentioned, I asked you for an estimate, you said 7 to 8 years before we get the environment conducive to actually better gold activity economically. What do we do in the interim as a country?
I think that the country, as far as manufacture or as far as mining is concerned, and pretty much the same applies to manufacturing, we need to get the stakeholders around the table, literally as a matter of national emergency, government, business, and labor, coming to a room and say, we need to, as a country, protect our interests. It is not a partisan game of you getting more and I'm getting less. We need to first have an industry before we can say who gets how much of it. If we go the route that we have gone over the past 3, 4, 5 years of government destabilizing, unions destabilizing, business not knowing what to do, and the global market against us, we will have a fraction of the industry that we have now in 4 or 5 years' time. We need to see it as a national emergency and act with it with leadership.
Because we were the darling of the world at one stage when it came to mining. Of course, the physical reality doesn't allow us to get to those heights, but surely we can have the confidence and the strength of a sector that is active economically. Can't we get that back?
That's what I was speaking to. If we want to get that back, and remember, none of our reserves have disappeared. We still got one of the top 5 national reserves of a mix of minerals. What we don't have is to position ourselves and the mining sector as a destination for investment, for local investors and for foreign investors. And we cannot keep branding ourselves as a destination for investments when government disrupts it one day, ESCOM the following day, unions the next day. Where do we go? We need to take it seriously.
We're going to have to leave it there. Iraj Abedien, CEO of Pan Africa Capital, thanks indeed for your time.
Thank you.
Now we'll take a short break after that.